Welcome, welcome. From wherever you're coming, welcome to the International House International Solstice Night, the winter solstice, December 22nd. And nice to see you all. My name is Alex. I'm the Executive Director of International House and excited to have a great event tonight. So we're in for a treat. It's too bad we couldn't see you all at the house. And at the same time, we're happy to be having this tonight. So we have Margie Flanders, Mike Laureano, and Mary Mueller. And I just want to say thank all of them in advance for continuing this ritual, and Risa Gilpin for initially starting this ritual at the International House. I believe in Rhode Island, it's 9 hours and maybe 8 minutes of sunlight, I think, this time of year. And every day we're getting a few seconds more for the next 6 months. So I think there's something about this time of year with so many traditions. During the darkest time of the year, people are called to bring in the light and find ways to find, to bring light to the dark, and all the metaphors that can exist out of that. So without further ado, I'm going to make a few Zoom related announcements. And then I'll pass it over to Mary. So everyone comes into the meeting on mute, and we ask that if you just stay on mute during most of the program for the first half of the program, and that will just make the sound better for everybody. The second half of the program will have an open mic. We do have about 12 readers, and we've asked people to read just one poem of their selection. That's how we'll do the open mic tonight. And the meeting is being recorded. So if for any reason you don't want to be on the recording, then if you're going to read in the open mic, this will be part of the recording we're doing for tonight. And we're going to take a few pictures throughout the night. So if you don't want to be in part of a picture, you could turn your camera off, but we'll do a few pictures so that we can have those for the event as well. And without further ado, welcome, winter solstice. I'll turn over to Mary Mueller, and hi to Mary.
Thank you, Alex. Welcome to our annual International House Solstice Celebration. I'm really pleased tonight to introduce our solstice guides, Margie Flanders and Mike Laureano. Poet Margie Flanders' work has appeared in numerous journals. Her collection of poetry is titled The Persuasive Beauty of Imperfection, which is a title I love. She is a founding member of Ocean State Poets, and for 9 years she was part of a team, actually she led a team, that facilitated poetry groups at Rhode Island's medium security prison. She has led numerous poetry workshops for libraries, schools, conferences, and women's centers. Margie is the managing editor of the Crosswinds Poetry Journal. Then we have famous singer-songwriter Mark Laureano, who hails from Fall River, Massachusetts, an old mill town infamous for its axe-wielding resident, Lizzie Borden, and for its chow mein sandwiches and pork pies. Mike has been called Fall River's Poet Laureate. He's proud of his roots. Many of his songs deal with his gritty blue-collar hometown and the lives of his family and friends. His concerts from his porch during the 2019 pandemic were a soothing balm to his neighbors and fans. I can attest to that. As Alex said, we were hoping to be in person tonight, but unfortunately, we are not, which was the case last year. We also were on Zoom, and I gathered some thoughts together about the experience of being on Zoom for this kind of celebration last year, and I'll read it again. On solstice night in pandemic time, the screen is our moon, a fourth goddess of dissonant light, alien guide to another world, where we all reside. She takes our hands, hers brittle, chapped, turns our eyes blurred, strained, red from weeping for our fractured world. We enter into the flickering space. Beyond a screen, you listen, watch. Our voices pierce the darkened night. In the winter's glow, we see your face.
Oh, what a nice way to start. Well, here we are again, virtually for the second year. This is the 6th year we've done this, and this is the first time that we're celebrating just after the solstice. Usually we're a week or so before. So theoretically, we may be sensing the light coming into our lives, but it's been a tough time for a lot of us, tough couple of years, so it's worth celebrating when we can. As usual, I will be reading poems about my own personal journey about trying to get from the dark back into the light. But I hope my journey resonates with yours as well somehow. Just to talk about the winter solstice for a minute, I like to think of ancient people in Northern Europe and what's now Germany as really noticing the seasons, paying attention. You know, they know when it turns from summer to fall. They know the plants. They have a grasp of where they live that I admire, because so much of their life depended on the earth, and those are my roots. I found out from Ancestry.com that I'm about 95% from that part of the Northern Hemisphere. But all people have their traditions and ceremonies at this or at other times of the year. Of course, ancient people didn't know that we have winter because of the tilt of the earth as it turns. And I'm not even sure that I knew that until I was in my 20s or 30s, maybe even. But they knew, and they passed on from generation to generation what they observed and recorded about the moon cycles and the growing periods and the constellations. They lived it. So part of why I love to celebrate the solstice is it connects us to that wisdom that we may have lost along the way. So we will share a few traditions that I stumbled upon. And the first is Diwali, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. It's otherwise known as the Festival of Light. It's a holiday of Hindu origin, and it's widely celebrated throughout India. The 5-day event takes place on the 15th day of the month of Kartik. I'm not sure that's how it's pronounced. In the Hindu calendar, which falls in October or November. Celebrants light clay lamps said to represent the destruction of anything negative in one's life. That's pretty cool. And they celebrate the goddess Lakshmi, who is purported to bring wealth and good fortune. So not that far off from the solstice. So this first part is going to be called Light Emerging from the Dark. And I'll read a couple of winter quotes for you as well. Getting an inch of snow is like winning 10 cents in the lottery, says Bill Watterson. He must love snow. And someone named Hal Borland says, no winter lasts forever. No spring skips its turn. That's a relief to know. So this first poem is called Sun Stands Still. Sun stands still. I sit where rare light finds me and scrape pages of earth from my boots. Rain has slurried the path. Later I will gather kindling. Sun stands still. My inner snakes are shedding their skins, regenerating the quiet my cells need, forming the Ouroboros, symbol of eternal cyclical renewal, the snake swallowing its tail. The sun burns hot, but stands still, throws bars of shadow on the porch, ice beside dark melt. My snakes in delicate cradles of sleep cool their fires. If I gather light as it returns, if I carry fallen branches home, if my boots dance on a path to a new season, maybe the sun will move on.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably should have explained that solstice sort of literally means sun stands still.
Mm.
In that it doesn't seem to move the same way, because it's for a few days that they call the halcyon days. It seems to be at the same place, and anyway. So this is called At Solstice. I get an itch to use my voice, like a hot poker plunged into cider. The full moon makes my tongue loose and trilled. Who can even hear me on such a night? My sins lay before me like gifts, awaiting to be unwrapped and given. Have I killed plants, stolen treasure from earth, told lies and been untrue to myself? Probably 1,000 times. I want to start again, but more innocent this time. I want to make amends and be forgiven by the sun as I circle its burning, so warmth and light will return. So the futility of remorse that lies at the center of the snow labyrinth I walk with halting and sincere steps, turning and turning, desperate to get back out, will finally melt and make me free. I'm having this theme about being free from the dark. And this is a poem that one of the guys in the medium security prison wrote. And it's called Winter Solstice. The sun is lost through a steel gray sky, bringing the Arctic chill. I search for it with a crimped neck, the way a wolf drinks a moonbeam. The ambient light can't warm my toes, so I dance like pagans do, howling up bartered praises in exchange for its seasoned return as the blood warms my feet. We had some good poets. This will be the last one of this section. It's called Getting Free. My right hand hurts from playing violin, and now it seems the cellar door is stuck. This morning a wren flew into the house and we can't get it out. Winter, newborn, is a small secret fire, reluctant to warm us. My brother calls in crisis, demands I listen, just when I need not to, but I cannot turn him away. So my hand hurts, as if caught in a trap, and now my neck too. The fugitive wren appears to be nesting in a basket on a top shelf, dreaming of a new life where all needs are met. No competition, no hawks. I free up the cellar door, leave it open in case the wren changes her mind.
It's beautiful, Laurie. This is called December, and it's a little incantation, a little prayer, if you will, to gather in love, to fan the embers, and help December's winter sun shine above. December closed her eyes, blew out the candle, went to sleep to find some peace of mind. The year had been unkind, manhandled. She reached beyond her grief for one good sign. Though days grow shorter, hope burns longer. Darkness cannot fight against the light. Gather in love, fan the embers, help December's winter sun shine above. Frightened doves on the icy branches, there are hawks who have no heart peering down. But there is a holly bush past the cold park benches, where the old, the sick, the weak are safe and warm. As days grow longer, hope burns stronger. Darkness cannot fight against the light. Gather in love, fan the embers, help December's winter sun shine above. Help December's winter sun shine above.
Oh, thank you. So the second part is about the new light that still contains the dark. Intellectually, we may know that the days are getting a teeny weeny bit longer, but it's still a hard time of year for many of us. So here are a few quotes. Sinclair Lewis said, "Winter is not a season, it's an occupation." That's the work part of winter. And there's a Montenegro proverb, "Winter bites with its teeth or lashes with its tail." Yeah, that's what February feels like to me. But Anne Morrow Lindbergh says, perhaps I am a bear or some hibernating animal underneath, for the instinct to be half asleep all winter is so strong in me. I identify with that. This is called Errands in December. I hit the post office first, mail bells to 2 friends, stuff cards 5 at a time through a narrow slot. Mid-December has left me discombobulated. Time is acting strangely, and I need lists to keep me on track. I charge my phone while I drive, and night's spread of black overtakes the fleeing sun. I buy wine at the wine store, artichokes at the artichoke store, park as far away as I can to get more fresh air. The sun's leaving saddens me, so I buy from my sweet cattle dog a plush beach ball big as a small sun. She'll know I'm sad and will try to make me laugh. I buy a small stone in a Chinese box for a friend who is ill, the treatment worse. And somewhere tornadoes have crushed a candle factory, and suddenly everything seems bad, like an ugly omen. What am I even doing driving from store to buy bright ribbons as if December joy can be had for piles of shining quarters, my pockets full of them, until I stack them on the counter in perfect alignment. And I wish I could just walk our woods, clipping greens, arborvitae, holly sprigs from the tree bursting with more berries than ever, and plucking princess pine and pipsissewa from the humus hiding under the leaves, enough to fill up all our mugs and vases. But there are more errands to do. So that's my little complaint. But I know many folks who are dealing with much bigger issues. I'm in a string orchestra, and we had our first concert in 2 years earlier this month. It was amazing to be back together making music. But we had lost 2 members this year, and so the concert was in honor of them. And I was asked to write a poem for the concert. And after I wrote it, I got to feeling that it was somehow more universal, that it wasn't just about a string orchestra. So I rewrote it a little bit, changed the title, and it's called The World is a String Orchestra. I just had this sense that each life is like music, and each conversation is a duet, and we are all different melodies and sounds. So this is The World is a String Orchestra. We unpack our instruments, admire the wood, the curves and patina. We tune up the strings, rosin our bows, take our places, then we play. Together we rehearse how we want to sound. Even our mistakes serve a purpose. We listen to each other. Sometimes we get lost in the music. On a good night, our bows move in unison, whether our strings whisper or sound loud and triumphant. We try to remember to breathe, to watch our conductor for cues. We are playing together, and we have become like family. So when we lose someone, we remember their sound, their vibrato. Their silence becomes a part of us. We hear echoes of their melodies. Their violins are at rest. Wind may sing their names. Memories may keep them near, but we miss their tone, their unique song, their music, So all we can do on this winter night to honor our shared loss and them is to play. So we play on. And we're about to do one of my favorite traditions. But first I want to read, this was a little slip of paper that I found in my mother's desk. And it obviously was written about me when I was 5. My mother writes, evening talk of a 5-year-old. She is counting to herself, then speaks to a mother. Counting will go on until everybody dies. Yes. Will you have lots of birthdays before you die? Yes, I think so. Dying will be like a birthday. It will be a sort of celebration. So the tradition that we've done every year is called Blue Christmas. And it's celebrated in Christian churches, but I think the spirit of it is in many different faiths. And it has to do with accepting that there are people who are not happy right now or have suffered loss. And it's a way of giving them the space and the time to acknowledge that together. And then maybe they can move forward into the holidays, feeling maybe validated. So what we do here in this solstice celebration is we call out the names of those people we've lost this year, or maybe the names of people we've lost in other years at this time. So let's start with just a moment of silence, and then we'll call some names. I call Catherine and Jim Collins.
Go ahead, Elle.
Sheila Miller.
Ken Fish. Tina Bernard.
Jeff Mellish.
My father-in-law, Joel Winograd.
Irene Allen.
At Kelleher.
Hannah.
Paul Smits.
My sister-in-law, Ann Carpenter.
John Cook, an Alaskan pioneer.
Raleigh Goodwin. Christina Huck and George Anderson in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Stephen Sondheim.
Ab Sparks.
Renee Ready.
Blessed be, they will all be missed. It's hard to hear so many names. So this last poem for this section is sort of about making some sense out of loss and or the dark, if that's possible. It's called Fog at Solstice. The last poem I almost wrote was about fog. Then I decided to be intentional with my pen, to dedicate it to something grand and humbling. Pause and think before staining the paper with my ink, as if a poem was a tattoo. I wanted to write about being lost in the mist between seasons, the comfort of cluelessness, surrounded by the moist, cool abyss of the unknown. But the burden of intention stopped me cold for the length of time it takes the new moon to become full. And only then could I pick up pen in abandon, not guiding its path, no directing where words would take me or who I would be, no defining why or what I write or to whom. I was empty 2 weeks ago, and now I am full of the agency of deliverance. At the crossroads of fall and winter, cold crashing into warmth, the very conditions to birth fog, like a diffused halo illuminated by moon, surrounding me with something I'm now ready for and have no need to control.
This is a song I wrote called New Year's Resolution. It's sung in the voice of someone I know very close to me who struggled to beat addiction in a halfway house. And they credit their success to the love and support of their family. But there was another recovering addict in the halfway house named Jose. And all Jose had was a rabbit foot. Another New Year's resolution, sitting here broken in this halfway house. Pull up a chair, join these souls in despair, taking the first step, powerless to the drop. But I have my family, they did not forsake me. But some are so lucky, like Jose, who can't cry, I'll make him laugh. With a song about a rabbit who had a habit that he could not hide. I remember the way Jose used to pray, clutching his rabbit foot like a rosary, counting the days that he didn't stray in between dark and light on his knees. This New Year's resolution, no magic potion can sober you up, Jose. took him back to prison, but he left me his rabbit foot for good love.
You're the best, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so the third part is bringing the light forward. How do we manage to do that? The last tradition that I found was, it's a modern solstice festival. It's called Burning the Clocks in Brighton, UK. And it isn't exactly steeped in ancient tradition. It only started in 1994. But this little write-up said, but visually it does have a touch of the pagan about it. That intrigued me. Every year, local community groups pour their energies into creating hundreds of paper lanterns, clocks, and representations of mystical figures so that they can march them down the main street before ritually burning them in one giant bonfire at the beach. And I wondered why the clocks. It goes on to say, the artistic director says the solstice was chosen because it has significance in many traditions, but it is owned by none. I love that. As for the clocks, they symbolize the enemy or the governor. So at the end of the solar year, we burn these syllables, he says. The parade was canceled in 2020 due to COVID-19 restrictions, but local shops and public spaces hosted a lantern trail instead. So that's the most recent solstice tradition I've heard of. Lewis Carroll wrote, I wonder if the snow loves the trees and fields, that it kisses them so gently. And then it covers them up snug, you know, with a white quilt. And perhaps it says, go to sleep, darlings, till the summer comes again. And the last quote, and I don't know who wrote this, but the winter solstice has always been special to me as a barren darkness that gives birth to a verdant future beyond imagination, a time of pain and withdrawal that produces something joyfully inconceivable, like a monarch butterfly masterfully extracting itself from the confines of a cocoon, bursting forth into unexpected glory. This is called Solstice Night. In the dark stone of moonless sky, our stars seem to be laughing, tricksters with an eternal twinkle in their eyes. What lies below is solid. Earth, who offers us every path in every direction, is blessing seeds resting in soil, waiting to sprout next spring. I am passing my imaginary time as if nothing and everything is equally real. There are women in circles tonight, their words on fire, their hands ready to remake the world. And this next piece is more of a story than a poem, I guess. But it's about light and dark. So, on the dock. I'm standing on a dock with a lawyer outside a restaurant where we've been talking and looking out the window and watching what's left of the day's light fade, making strategies for how to save all the trees in Rhode Island. There are rows of yachts wrapped in white plastic, like big pillows pulled up onto land. We walk by boats in the water, soft light coming from within where people live. Fred carries my laptop, says how light it is, And I say, hey, you're carrying my life there. And if you drop it in the water, I'm done. He's walking loosely before me, saying, no, I would just buy you another one. And I'm watching all my poems and letters and other unbacked up documents of the heart swinging gently from his right hand. It is not like me to be walking on a dock where people live or talking to a lawyer. Fred keeps going, and I follow to where the dock forms a T, and there are white splotches on the cross dock. And we decide it is gull droppings, and I wonder silently why they only go there, or why the marina only cleans the droppings off the walkway down to this place where the lights fade and the black water laps pleasantly. It is both exotic and ordinary to be walking over water with a lawyer who cares about the future of our trees. And for one moment, I wonder, what if I were here with someone else with whom the very conjunction of stars and dark water could ignite something? What if I were much younger and Fred was not a lawyer? What if this was not just a meeting about trees, but a beginning of something? And I look up and I look back and I look down and I think of the safety of warm fantasies and ambiguities and distance and years, and I give it all up, like throwing the laptop in the water. And I start to say to myself, all will be revealed, but I realize much of it already is. We walk back to my truck and Fred's expensive car. He's still talking and hands me my life in the black case, and I put it in the passenger seat. Now it is the longest night, and I say goodbye to Fred, and by the time I put the truck back in gear, I am completely back in my life, and off I go, passing the trees of Rhode Island. But all the way home, I can still see the way the dark water folded the glints and sparks into itself, the way we all bury some moments of light until we can deal with them, the way we find black cases to stash away our memories and stories and lovings, and then carry them down to the end of a dock, just to remind ourselves of how valuable and irreplaceable they are. And for my last poem, it's called The Lemon. Today I'm walking the world with a lemon in my pocket, a cheery yellow treasure with dimpled skin. It fits my hand nicely, and I like taking it out to admire. I decided to carry it around for as many days as I wanted. I may take it out to show others, or have it be my secret. David says maybe someone will say, I wish I had a lemon right now, and I could whip it out and hand it over. The lemon is like my own little sun, warming me in these dark weeks when I need it most. But the lemon is for all of us. And if we were together and it was a magic lemon, I could take it out of my pocket and place it in all your open hands.
Lovely, Margie. Well, so this past year, I've been struggling trying to find a way to bridge, the gap between us and them. I hear compassionate listening is very helpful. This is called Just Enough Love. I wear a mask, he complains, but we love each other enough. keep the peace between us. He cuts his grass in combat boots. He's fully armed, knows how to shoot, and he loves me just enough. Enough to help me if I call him up. He drives a Chevy pickup truck. He likes his country music tough, and I love it just enough. Especially when he turns it off. He tolerates my liberal songs. Once he tried to sing along, and he loved it just enough. Enough to almost pass for one of us. Although we wear different hats, this common ground beneath all that, and we love each other enough. I'd walk his dog, he'd feed my cat. He's on the neighborhood watch, he's got my back, but he'll never get me to buy a gun, and I'll never get him to sing "We Shall Overcome." But we love each other just enough.
Thank you. Wow. You know what? I think it calls for a moment of an invitation to unmute yourselves and maybe just jump in with a round of applause for Margie and Mike and the first half of the program. So.
Yay!
Thank you, guys.
Beautiful.
Yay.
Absolutely beautiful.
Wonderful, wonderful stuff.
Yes. So moving.
Just awesome, truly awesome. It's great.
Looking forward to hearing you all.
Pressure's on. How do we follow that?
No.
Yeah, so just a quick interlude to make a few announcements and transition to the open mic part of the night. And I want to echo just and say thank you again to Margie and Mike and Mary, and really the thoughtfulness of the program. It's just a really thoughtful presentation for this night. So thank you, and for the heart and soul, the soul you put into it. It's not easy to do this on Zoom. It's not easy to like speak into the silence, you know, and it just takes something to do that. So thank you both for that. We're gonna put a couple of links into the chat. So Margie's poetry website, the Crosswinds, or the Poetry Journal that she's connected to, and Mike's website, we'll put that in the chat as well if you want to follow more of where Mike's playing or get his music. Those are in the chat now. And then on the International House side, a few announcements. We're now, we were doing a bunch of in-person. We were making the transition to in-person activities, and now we're all back to pausing a bit But we are going to have a Robert Burns poetry night, which is a tradition at International House, I think, for many, many years. And Joe Scott, who's here tonight, will be emceeing that on Friday, January 28th. We're almost certain to be on Zoom again this year. So we will be delivering care packages of whiskey, shortbread, and maybe some other treats. So you can save the date, Friday, January 28th. And more details, we'll send out more things in our newsletter. We also just, if this time of year, as the executive director, I can't, it's sort of my duty and my obligation and also my pleasure to just ask that if you're moved by tonight and you want to see more of these things happen, we'd love to host this, especially when we're through this COVID time and we can do in-person events. And we welcome your donations and your support to make more of this happen. So if you are called to contribute financially to us, you can do that. And we'll put that easy link into the chat as well. And if you're not able to contribute financially, but you want to get involved and being involved in something International House, please reach out to us. This event was created by Risa, Margie, Mike, and Mary, and that's how a lot of things happen at International House. They start and then they continue. So please reach out to us if you want to get involved. And thank you for your contributions and your involvement. All right, so we'll now go to the second half of the evening, the open mic. And I am going to be spotlighting people. So we'll put the names of the lineup of who's set to speak. Actually, those are now in the chat. So Bill and then Risa can get ready on the on deck circle. And I'll pass it over to Mary, who will be emceeing this portion of the evening. So Mary, pass over to you.
Okay, thank you, Alex. And thank you, Margie and Mike. As someone in the audience mentioned, that was extraordinary program. Thank you. So as Alex mentioned, we're asking that you read just one poem tonight. I'm the gatekeeper. I'll call each person's name. You are unmuted, so just jump in when I call your name. If I mispronounce your name, please correct me when you take the mic. But I think I can pronounce Bill Carpenter. So Bill, are you out there?
Very nicely done. Very nicely done. Beautiful. People have trouble with my name.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everybody. It's great to be here. It's fun. Lovely performances all around. I have a poem. It's not exactly, well, it is, I guess, in some ways a solstice poem. It's at least 1/4 solstice. It's really, it starts off with autumn, and of course we're talking the fall equinox, and it goes to there are 4 parts, and the winter solstice, spring equinox, and we end with the summer solstice. And it's called Seasonal Birds. Seasonal birds, autumn, feasting on acorns for their southern trek, wood ducks peel back the curtain of daylight. With their exodus, green yields to copper, grasses turn golden, while trees shed almond and bronze scales, bearing summer's faded copper. Winter. From Arctic climes, snowy owls unfurl, winter's white over temperate latitudes, covering everything with downy flakes, while freezing lakes with their icy breath, whitening the landscape as camouflage from hapless prey. Spring. With the thaw, phoebes and robins spread, lengthening days, worms free to tunnel, loosen soil from winter's grip as clouds of insects cloak the landscape. Awakening dawn with birdsong, everything stirs and is alive. Summer. Warblers of every stripe weave yellow through fields and forests, mirroring dandelion forsythia, bright as the rising sun, illuminating bluebirds, goldfinches, and the oriole's tangerine, stretching light to its limits before night again wrestles day back against the stars. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Next we have Risa Gilpin. Risa,
Okay, here I am. And
where are you?
can you hear me?
Oh, there you are.
Okay. I love seeing everybody and continuing this tradition, but I do miss seeing everybody in person. But here's my little poem called The Shortest Day by Susan Cooper. So the shortest day came and the year died. And everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing, dancing to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreens. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed away, they shouted, reveling. Through all the frosty ages, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight. This shortest day, as promise wakens in the sleeping land, they carol, feast, give thanks, and dearly love their friends and hope for peace. And so do we here now, this year and every year. We are Yule. Thank you.
Thank you, Risa. And Joseph Scott.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
You can hear me.
Yes.
This poem was written by a friend in 2019 who attended the Solstice poetry reading and unfortunately had to leave for a theater engagement, so you have never heard her voice reading this poem. My suggestion is that you close your eyes until you're instructed to open them in the poem. And it just struck me that this was entirely appropriate for the solstice. Let your eyes adjust. Moonlight on the snow, so quiet, so gentle, so slow. The faintest whisper on the air, magic to behold should you dare. Drifting, dancing on the wind, each flake falls with a patient spin. Colors to see in our darkest hour, rivaling those of the finest flower. Open your eyes and ears and heart to the symphony of the night, the longest dark. Seize the chance, a mere moment of glass, for the sun comes again, and this darkness will pass.
Thank you. I heard a mention of symphonies following up on our earlier orchestra. I like that musical theme tonight. And next we have, and please correct my pronunciation, Yael Petretti.
Hi there.
Ready to read? Hi.
Yeah,
I think she's muted.
Yeah, you got to mute.
Thank you all very much for these beautiful, beautiful, inspiring poems. This is the first time I've gotten to join you, and I thank Mike and Carol for that. And when I heard it was a welcoming the solstice, the first thing I thought of was just a very simple song by Ella Baker called Give Light. So I'll just share it with you. That's okay. And you can sing along if you know it. Give light and people will find the way. Give light and people will find the way. Give light and people will find the way. People will find the way, I do believe. Give love and people will find a way. Give love and people will find a way. Give love and people will find a way. People will find a way, I do believe. Stand together and people will find a way. Stand together and people will find a way. Stand together and people will find a way. People will find a way, I do believe. Give light and people will find a way. Give light and people will find a way. Give light and people will find a way. People will find a way, I do believe. And people will find a way, I do believe. Thank you.
Thank you. That was lovely. Thank you so much. Ah, another name I can pronounce, Nancy Brown. Nancy. Uh-oh.
Hi.
Where are you? Oh, there
I'm
you
right.
are. Okay.
Thanks. Big thanks to you, Mary, and to Margie and Michael and Alex. This is an extraordinary event. I'm reading a winter solstice tale that I wrote recently. Out of the long darkness came snowy owl gliding above the northern rim of the continents, illumined only by arcs of aurora borealis, gliding above the darkness, gliding, waiting for the rosy glimmer of dawn. A snowflake, small as a dragonfly's eye, fell on owl's wing. Then another and another large as blue whale's eye. The flakes fell by the light of dawn rising. Across snow's whiteness walked large-footed bear, fur the color of its mother's milk, tongue black as raven's wing. Across the whiteness moved seal, bearded with wisdom of bear's ways. Across the whiteness came people, walking upright, people watching the aurora, building fires, people waiting for the sun's light, people watching, waiting, people singing up the sun. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Nancy. Okay, next we have Judy Gamble.
Okay, all right. This is a little strange. I started studying Italian a few years ago, and I began writing a little poetry in Italian. And so when I was looking through for anything I might have that was winter solstice related, I came upon this very short poem that I wrote in Italian called La Speranza, the hope. However, I am not going to read it to you in Italian. I'm going to read you the English translation of La Speranza, the hope. On the day of the winter solstice, when the night lingers longest, I am not sad. Instead, my heart soars. I'm happy, knowing that a new cycle is a-borning, if not on the calendar, right here in my mind, and I sing with the morning.
Oh. I might break my own rule here. Would you read it in Italian?
Okay. All right. La Speranza. Sul giorno del solsticio inverno, quando la notte persiste la più lunga, non sono scontenta. Invece, mio cuore sale alle stelle, mi piacere sapendo che un ciclo nuovo è nascendo, se non nel calendario qui in mia mente, e io canto con la mattina.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
It's almost good enough to eat.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I always break the rules once, every open mic. Next we have Noreen Inglesi. Noreen, hi.
Okay. Beautiful program. So thankful that we got to see this. It's wonderful. In keeping with the theme of winter solstice and new beginnings and the importance of our natural environment, I wanted to share a poem I wrote while visiting the wildlife refuge in Matunic Hills Preserve, protected by the Nature Conservancy here in Rhode Island. Slopes steep and slippery, slushy leaves moistened with melted snow, wind gently rustling through brittle branches, paths twining, twisting, leading finally to soft, soothing sunlight, shaded with images of Forsythia in early bloom. Glistening atop an ice-capped kettle pond tucked safely away in Matunic Hills. At water's edge, a cormorant swiftly swoops down for its spoil, while a crane stretches its neck and peers peacefully at its own reflection. A few faint footprints in the velvety snow, the only trace of man in this wildlife refuge. Deer can wander here in the untamed night, far from the barrels of hunters, far from the honking of horns and the bustling of all-night shoppers. Larva can lie dormant in its cocoon until spring, when it soars as a dancer fly in the soft winds of the gentle sky, amidst the pure fragrance of a freshly blooming rose.
Thank you, Noreen. Next we have Richard Waring.
I think, Mary, the next two, Richard and Ira and Stephen, I don't see any of them, but call them out anyway. But I think the next one might be David.
Okay, Richard, Ira Schaefer, or Stephen Carloni? It's not looking like they're there. Okay. All right, David Dragoni.
Well, what a great program. So glad to be here. Boy, between multilingual poems and singing and everything else, never saw anything like that before. My poem's called Solstice Walk in Winter Woods, and it's actually about a walk I took maybe 3 years ago that kind of came back to me, and I just wrote this recently. Solstice Walk in Winter Woods. Chase away these overripe shadows, pruning the daylight. The longing sun has resurrected. Celebrate every weep of snow without outpourings of how spring waits for us all. Toast how the unresolved solstice sky resolves to shiver you and how you can stay warm-blooded. Glory at how seeds are born blind to the sun and still grow beneath this cold and brittle church of earth. Cheer how the first winds of winter try to finish their stripping of the trees and how they can't ever fully disrobe them. Revel in how voices in the woods bark with timbers of joy as light spills into song, becoming more becoming in the ear of the beholder. Honor how their bland bones still rollick in the nippy breeze as winter blanches the chilled branches.
Thank you, Dave. And last we have Silent Lotus. Silent, are you there?
Yeah, I don't see.
I don't see him. Okay. Okay. I will end with a poem that I read every year. I'll end open mic. And then Mike will play a song, and then we will have the ringing of the bells. So if you have any bells around, please find them now. Okay. This is called Solstice Lullaby. No time for rest this solstice night, though slumber calls from sheltered cave, from blanket snow, through ice-draped pine, and lullaby hush of Mother Earth. To dream in such tranquility, to wake would seem a foolish deed. But wake we must this longest night, to build fires, smoky, spare, of twigs and peat, scavenged from a gilded shore. Awake we hear icy pines, creaking limbs, shattered glass. Awake we see flickering stars, bright clarity in darkened sky, sense spirals moving underground as earth shifts imperceptibly. Awake we tend our smoldering fires, endless through the bleakest hours, fan their flames with frozen hands, till night falls into warming sun.
Thank you, Mary. And thank you, Alex and Madison at the International House for hosting us this year. And hopefully next year we can do it in the flesh. Hope springs eternal. Thank you, Margie. Lovely poems. And thank you mostly everyone who attended here today. Without you guys, there would really be no celebration. I wish I could take my dad, to see my mom in the nursing home this year, but there's been a lockdown again, unfortunately. My mom used to always say, when in doubt, leave people with a smile on their face, who couldn't do it more kindness this time of the year? So this song is inspired by them. Father called to say hello. He spoke like winter, cold and slow. The Yuletide season took its toll. He was in need of cheer, and someone to hold. Sometimes words can heal a heart. Sometimes love can lift the dark. Human kindness can melt the snow. Leave them smiling when you go. He had a wife, now she's gone. He visits her in the old folks' home. One day she won't know his name, but when she hears his voice, she's in love again. Sometimes love can lift the dark. Human kindness can melt the snow. Leave them smiling when you go. So he rolled the stone from his cave. He turned his nighttime into day. His winter voice was warmer now. He could hear the carols and the bells. Sometimes words can heal a heart. Sometimes love can lift the dark. Human kindness can melt the snow. Leave them smiling when you go. My father called to say hello. Leave them smiling when you go.
Thank you, Mike. That was beautiful. Now, everyone get your bells. Does everybody have a bell? We're going to take Mike's smiles and turn them into ringing in the lights. Oh, Nancy. Excellent bells. Excellent bells. Oh, Margie, excellent bells.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
girl.
This was spectacular.
Well,
You are
thank
wonderful.
you. Thank everyone for coming. Really, this is wonderful.
Oh, great.
See you next year.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Safe Christmas.
Good night.
God bless us
everyone.
all.
Good night. Bye, everybody.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
So we're leaving now? Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.